My name is Noah, this is Route 1, and today I'm discussing Newcastle and why this is going to be a long-term project. So obviously everyone knows Newcastle was just bought by like a Saudi company. Basically, the country of Saudi Arabia essentially is owning Newcastle. They are going to be the richest owners, not only in the Premier League, but in the world of football. I think the stat was around 13 times more rich than the Man City owners, which historically have been known to be that team with the most money. Now I just want to talk about how this is actually going to be a longer term project, and mainly talk about financial fair play, because at the time when City and Chelsea were taking over, even PSG, financial fair play, I don't think was a thing. And even if it was, it's been established even more. And FIFA is cracking down more and more. And we now see clubs like Inter Milan, like Real Madrid, Barcelona, they have to offload players in order to bring them in. You can't just spend a lot of money. You can't just drop a bag on a bucket load of players and bring them all in at once. Now, with that being said about financial fair play, this is going to be a longer term project. Some clubs in the world, the owners of those clubs also own some of the sponsors. So, for example, at City, it's kind of known that City's owners own Etihad, which have the stadium naming rights as well as the shirt sponsor. So essentially, if you own the club and you own all the sponsorship around that club, you can inflate that price and inject more money into the club, heightening that revenue, making you able to spend more on players. My prediction would be Newcastle's owners will change the sponsors, will change the naming rights of the stadium eventually, and inject more money into the club that way. But for now, it's going to be a slower build because they can't spend as much money on transfers as other clubs. So now let's go over the roadmap of how Newcastle can actually reach the top. Let's break it down in the near term and the long term. The best way of moving forward in the near term is to hire a young manager who can grow with the club. A Graham Potter, someone like that, rather than Zidane, Conte. And I actually think it would be kind of hard to convince a Zidane, a Conte to come in because it's going to be a longer term project than we think. Maybe in 3-4 years, now they can go look at Zidane, Conte, but in the short term, a Graham Potter, a younger manager, would be perfect. Now their squad obviously needs a massive overhaul. Their whole back line is aging. There's average players in the squad. They need to bring in a lot of players, but they can't spend a lot. So bringing in younger players who can stay in the project and grow with the project would be the ideal choice in the near term. Further forward, in the long term, now you can go look at top managers and also be very specific in players you want to bring in. Pay a lot of money for a Harry Kane. Obviously, he might be a bit older, getting on, but you know what I mean. Pay a little bit more for more expensive players once you have the foundation being set. And that's what they need to do now. They need to build the foundation, buy young players, get a young manager in, and go. I think a few players Newcastle could potentially go after would be starting with the center back, because they have Lascelles, but they need to strengthen their back line. It's aging. They're averaging over 2 goals conceded per 90 minutes this season. I would go for someone like Axel Disasi from Monaco. Strong, physical, can play out the back. Is captain of Monaco at the moment, only 23. He's a solid center back. I think in a couple years, next year even, he'd be ready to step into the Premier League. The second player I would potentially look at is Zakaria from Mönchengladbach, the center defensive mid, almost like a box-to-box center defensive midfield type of player, but he's strong. He has that physical profile for the Premier League, and he's ready for the next move. Now, I also think he would be a good fit because his contract is running out this summer, so he could actually realistically move to Newcastle, not for a crazy amount of money. The last player we would look at is probably a striker. We've seen with other projects, when a club is taken over, they go for the best striker in the world. Monaco went after Falcao when they had a lot of money. You had Chelsea, Shevchenko going to Chelsea, Aguero going to City, probably an attacking player. So I'm looking at actually someone from River Plate, Julian Alvarez. I think he would be not at the top of the game, but like I was saying, a younger player to build with. And I think he's ready or approaching that next phase of his career where he's ready to make a big move to the Premier League. He's doing very well for River Plate. He's getting goals and he's very versatile. Can play striker, can play a center forward, an attacking midfielder out wide. I think he would be a great addition to the squad because I don't think Callum Wilson is going anywhere anytime soon either. There are a few players that probably will stay with Newcastle. Joe Willock, St. Max, but I think Callum Wilson will also be one of those. I rate him as a striker, and I think in the short term, he's going to be a great piece to that squad. Now, in the long term, I think it's very simple. You go after one of the best managers in the world, and you start adding pieces that are the best players in the world. You look at City, who did it with bringing in Pep Guardiola. They brought in De Bruyne. They brought in Yaya Toure, Aguero, David Silva. They brought in big pieces after they put the foundation in place. So I think it's obviously in the long term, it's far to think about, but it's simple. Go after the best of the best. So to wrap things up, in the short term, I think Newcastle need to be competing with Everton, Leicester City, even Arsenal, finishing in the top 8. That should be their goal. And depending on who they bring in, try and push for the European places. Not the Champions League, maybe the Europa, but the Europa Conference League should be a goal of theirs if they do it correctly. Those are my thoughts on the Newcastle United takeover. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.